This video is now in session, and the New Jersey gubernatorial election has not been talked about as much as the Virginia gubernatorial election, but in our opinion, it should be talked more than it currently is. Because if we're looking at the polls for the 2021 election, we're seeing something worrying happening for the Democratic Party. If we look at the polls, Monmouth University has a 13% lead for Phil Murphy, but if you look at these Republican pollsters, you can see it's a 3-2-1 percent lead for Phil Murphy. And even though both of these polls are Republican, that still spells trouble for Phil Murphy. The fact that Republican pollsters can go so low as saying that Phil Murphy is only going to have a 3% lead is potentially worrying for the Democrats. Now, there needs to be more pollsters to kind of confirm this, but if we look at the 2017 election, Phil Murphy won by 14.9%. If we're looking at this election against Jack Ciattarelli, we're most likely going to see less than that, more like a 12% victory or even a 8% victory, because the thing is, we're not seeing the best results for the Democrats this year. If we're looking at this year, the Democrats are struggling to get stuff done. They've gotten a COVID-19 pandemic bill. They've gotten an industry bill that would increase funding for research and development, but they don't really have the infrastructure bill. They don't have the budget bill. So for a lot of voters, they're kind of concerned at the Democratic Party right now. It's kind of similar to between 2008 and 2010. But what ultimately for Phil Murphy, the problem that he's having is that he's being a little bit too progressive for what Americans in general want, and this is reflected nationwide, which is that or I guess the average American believes that. The Democrats are being a little bit too progressive. And the main problem is not really actually their policies. Democratic policies are very popular among both Democrats and Republicans, but the main problem is spending. It's spending. Because you have a bunch, if you combine if you combine policies that a lot of people like and put them in one bill, it could be popular by itself, each of those provisions, but together, if you combine the costs of all of those policies, then a lot of people start to not support it. For example, a lot of people support spending $1 trillion on infrastructure, and a lot of people support universal pre-K and a lot of social programs, individually speaking. But if you combine them all together in one bill to make something like a $4 trillion bill, then a lot of people will start to disapprove it because it costs too much in their opinions. $3.5 trillion plus $1.2 trillion, it's a lot of money that Washington is spending. And that's why a lot of people in New Jersey, or at least some competitive voters, are getting a little bit worried about the Democratic Party. And that's why you see polls not reflecting as high as they were in 2017. If we look at the 2017 polls, you can see here that it went up to here, and it was actually as low as 5%, even though it ultimately ended up with 14.9%. But what happens in New Jersey still matters, though, because if New Jersey votes in for Phil Murphy by safe margins, that means he's doing good. That means Democrats are going to be rewarded for their COVID-19 handling, because that's the main thing that Murphy is doing right. But if he gets if he gets 3 percentage points less than what he got, or 3 percentage points less, at least 3 percentage points less than what he got in 2017, that's a little bit worrying for the Democrats, because it means that their policies are being too progressive. Phil Murphy, he is a progressive, and in New Jersey, there are a lot of taxes, there are a lot of regulations, so depending on what happens in 2021, we'll start to see if moderate Democrats approve of what Murphy is doing or not. And mind you, we also have other elections, not just gubernatorial elections in New Jersey and Virginia. You also have the the delegation, the assembly elections that are happening in New Jersey, and then the House of Delegates election in Virginia. So if we look at the New Jersey assembly elections in 2021, then there are a couple of competitive races to watch. So there are 52 seats for the Democratic Party and 28 seats for the Republican Party. The main kind of competitive districts will come from the southern New Jersey area, the 7th district area where New Jersey's 7th congressional district is, and then a few districts in northern New Jersey. If we look at the 2019 election, you can see here that the 16th district was competitive, the 39th district is competitive, 38th is as well, and then the 2nd, the 3rd, the 11th district, the 1st district, and the 8th district. If we look at the 2019 elections, Republicans gained 2 seats, and that was primarily because of the 1st district, which is near the Atlantic City area. It's the Cape May area and the Atlantic City suburbs. So that will be a competitive election to look for in the 2021 election. And then you also have state senate elections that are happening during 2021 that normally don't happen, that happen every 4 years. So District 1, you can see here that the 2 incumbents are running for re-election again. And you can see here in the 1st legislative district, all seats, the senatorship and the assembly members, they're all Republicans. So if Democrats can take that back, that's good for them. That means that their policies are getting them somewhere. But if they don't win in that election, if they don't win in, particularly if they don't win in New Jersey's 16th legislative district for the Senate side, then that's worrying for the Democrats, because this is a district that they should be able to win in terms of the Senate position. Currently, there's a Republican in the Senate, and they were elected in 2007. So we'll have to see if they stick around, but for the most part, it's not really. For the most part, New Jersey still should be looked at, even if Virginia is the more competitive state, because it's not because nationwide, not every single state is competitive. In fact, most states are not even that competitive. But for New Jersey, it can give a sense of whether Democratic voters approve of what Democrats are doing in Washington. If they don't, then that's a very worrying sign. But if they do, then at least the Democrats can kind of do a get out the vote operation in 2022, and that will be dependent on whoever wins in New Jersey. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.